until you start creating content on a regular basis, it is going to be very hard for you to actually get people to come and start listening to you on a consistent basis about anything.
Welcome to the Online Genius Podcast, where host and renegade-thinking beer-brewing lawyer turned online entrepreneur Bobby Klinck proves that building and protecting your online genius doesn't have to be rocket science. Bobby and his expert guests break down online marketing and the legal stuff so you can stop sweating the small stuff and get back to building your amazing business. Now, here's your host, Bobby Klinck.
Hey there, welcome to episode 112 of the Online Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Klinck, and I'm excited for this Foundations Friday because I'm going to give you some tough love. I'm going to be talking about something that, candidly, I think not enough people are stressing enough when they're talking to their followers, and that is a very simple fact. And I'm going to give you the tough love that, yes, you do need to create at least one piece of long-form content each week in your business. This is something that a lot of entrepreneurs aren't doing, whether it's a blog, a podcast, a YouTube show, something that is providing value every single week. And I'm not talking about social media posts. I'm talking about something more significant than that. And this is a place where, candidly, I've heard so many entrepreneurs say, but I don't have time, or thinking that maybe they can do it once a month or that they can do it less frequently. And what I'm going to tell you today is that creating at least one piece of long-form content every single week in your business will be one of the most important steps you can take to actually start building your business over the long term. I know that when I started creating this podcast on a weekly basis back in December of 2017, that was a major shift in my business. And I have put out at least one episode every single week since then. And now since October of this year, I've been putting out 2 episodes a week. And I'll be honest with you, when I started it, I didn't have a team. I didn't have a lot of time. I had a lot of other things going on, but I committed to do it. And committing to do it is important. And it's important because realistically, content is what is going to attract people into your world. Until you start creating content on a regular basis, it is going to be very hard for you to actually get people to come and start listening to you on a consistent basis about anything. Now, if you're going to want them to buy a product from you, great, you're going to have to get them into your world. If you're going to want to offer a service to them, again, you've got to get them into your world. And I like to ask this question. If you're not creating content on a regular basis that people can listen to, can consume, etc., why in the world would they come into your world? What is going to draw them in? What is going to attract them to your, whether it's an email list or anything like that? And even if they simply decide to, grab a freebie from you, if there's nothing else, chances are they're never going to get more connected to you. And so that's the reason why creating content is so important. But more importantly, and here's another piece for you to understand, creating that content on a regular basis gives you something to talk about. Your social media strategy gets much easier. Your email strategy gets much easier. Everything gets easier when you're creating content every single week. Because guess what? You create that one piece of long-form content, and when you do it, that piece of content can be the entire bedrock of everything you talk about that week if you want to. Your social media can revolve around that topic. Your weekly email can link back to that, etc. So it just sets the stage for everything else you're going to be doing. And so it is crucially important to do that. Now, I bring this up because candidly, I think most people have heard other people talk about this and suggest you need to create weekly content. But candidly, when I look around the industry, most people aren't doing it. Now they'll say, and you'll hear some people hedge and say, oh, well, you don't have to do it every week. Do it once a month. Or do it every other week. And you know what? Here's what I'll tell you. Doing it once a month is better than not doing it at all. That's true. Doing it every other week is better than doing it not at all or doing it once a week. But here's where the tough love piece comes in. If you are not willing or you can't find the time to put in to create new content every week, the chances that you're going to succeed in your business over the long term are small. And that may seem brutal, that may seem rough, that may seem like something you don't want to hear. But I'm here to tell you that business is about prioritizing what matters. It's about figuring out the stuff that really will move the ball forward and spending time doing that. Now, we all have the same amount of time in a day. We all have the same amount of time in a week. And yes, some of us have different commitments. Some of us have other things involved. But I just want you to understand when you say you don't have time for something, and let me be clear, I say I don't have time to do certain things. But really what that means is that we have not made it a priority. We have decided that something else that we're doing is more important. And the reality is we all have to prioritize things. We all have to decide that certain things take priority over other things that we have to do or that other things that we could be doing. And so the reality is, yes, we are going to be prioritizing and there are things we're going to decide we can't do. I'm here to tell you that creating your weekly content needs to be up near the top of your list. So it's one of the things that gets prioritized so you get it done. It's important because it becomes a bedrock of everything else. It is way more important than scrolling through social media and looking at things on social media. It is way more important than looking at some new shiny object you could be chasing on a marketing perspective. It is way more important than playing around with TikTok or whatever the newest social media craze is. It is way more important than setting up a messenger bot or something else on your Facebook page. It is way more important than most of the things that are distracting people in the online space. And I say that because when you look at the successful businesses, the businesses that have stood the test of time, regular content coming out every single week is part of the bedrock of what they do. And we can all learn by watching the other people who are in the space and have been successful. And I like to say that, yes, oftentimes the entrepreneurs, the gurus, they teach us things by their programs. But I like to look at what they do. And if you'll start doing that, you'll start to find patterns. You'll start to see what are the things, what are the common themes, not necessarily that they're talking about, but that the businesses, that those gurus, that those thought leaders, that those experts have built, what do they have in common? And when you look at those businesses, you're going to see a few different things. And having consistent content and showing up week after week after week after week is part of it. And I'm going to tell you, if you haven't been doing it, it's going to suck at the beginning. And it's going to suck at the beginning for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to be hard because you've got to build up a muscle to do it. But it's also going to suck because I'm going to be very honest with you. Nobody's going to show up at the beginning. Unless you've got a big, huge list of people to start with to drive traffic to a blog, a podcast, a YouTube show, etc. At the beginning, you are not going to have a ton of people reading, listening, watching. But that's not what it's about. What it's about is over time, you accumulate value by putting out more and more and more. Now, if you have a blog, it comes in the form of SEO where the search engines start to find you, start to rank you, and eventually you start to pop up more and more often. If you have a podcast like I do, here's what I'll tell you what happens. Someone finds my podcast now, they listen to one episode, and if they like it, they go and they listen to 5 or 10 more episodes. And so it becomes this snowball effect over time that the more you do, the more consistently you do it, the longer you do it, the more value you get from it. And so that's why I'm telling you that it's got to be a consistent habit. It needs to be something that you need to be doing over and over and over again. And if you do it every single week on a regular basis, you're going to get to the point that it has the value you need. The problem is you've got to plant the seed today that's going to pay off 6 months from now, 9 months from now, etc. So you need to start creating the content now and just get in the habit and do it even if nobody shows up. And in time, people will start showing up. So that's my tough love. That's the Foundations Friday episode today. You need to be creating content every single week without fail. Now, if you need help figuring out how to do that, how do you put together a strategy? How do you figure out what form of content? How do you do all of that? I would love for you to join my free business building boot camps. It's got a list building section and also a content strategy section. And in the content strategy section, I walk through how to figure out what form of content to create, but also how to figure out how do you, brainstorm and come up with all the ideas, and then how do you actually create this stuff. So I'd love for you to do that. You can join the boot camps absolutely free by heading to bobbyklinck.com/BB bootcamps. Again, bobbyklinck.com/BB bootcamps. You head over there and you'll get access to it for free. And then once you do it, I want you to commit to yourself that you're going to create that content every single week. That's it for this episode of the Online Genius Podcast. I'll see you back here for the next episode. And until then, I'm just going to say, create content and make sure that you're doing the basic stuff right in your business every single day. Talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to the Online Genius Podcast. Make sure to tune in next week for more great tips, tricks, and strategies to help you build and protect your online genius.